on some big bucks today. I'll get on the track, big buck, and they will down today. It's a big 10-4.
Welcome to another episode of the Adirondack Bucks and Beyond podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Stagger Gear. If you haven't yet, make sure you head on over to the Stagger Gear website where you'll find everything from their wool tracker jacket, their Apex Merino base layers, and even their 100% rag wool gloves and much more. Everything you need to keep you dry, warm, and comfortable for a long day's adventure in the woods. Be sure to enter our promo code ABB with any purchase made on the Stagger Gear website to get 10% off your order. That's promo code ABB for 10% off your order, all at www.staggergear.com. All right, guys, welcome back to the Adirondack Bucks and Beyond podcast. We got Corey with us tonight. He decided to join us on this one, and we're hopping back on here just to give you guys a little update. And I just want to say, they say I'm a dreamer.
What song? I thought we were going to sing Let It Snow.
No, remember you said keep dreaming last week.
Yeah, I guess this podcast, or that last podcast, aged well for you particularly.
Yeah, I completed one of the two goals. So we'll probably just start right off of that and then roll with what's kind of going on right now.
Yeah.
So we did the podcast last week, and I was telling Brad that I wanted to kill one in the Adirondacks and then go home and shoot one with the bow. Well, I shot one in the Adirondacks, and it was quite the hunt. Basically, I had that buck that I was after had been killed, and I didn't really know where I wanted to go from there. So I just kind of started doing big loops and doing a bunch of scouting for like a day or two, and end up just coming into a pile of sign on just one giant bench on the side of this mountain. And I was like, all right, well, this is where I'm sitting. This is where I'm plopping myself for the next week or two. So sat there the first morning, which would have been November 13th. Yeah, because I killed him on the 14th, right?
Beats me.
I can't remember.
I think it was the 14th. So November 13th, get in there, have a doe. It was crazy. The sun's just coming up. It's like 7:30, and I decided to smack the rattling antlers together. I smack them together, and I hang them up. I turn around, wait for a minute, and I just hear, and I'm like, oh my, is this really gonna happen right now? And just happens to be a doe, and she just comes and passes right up to my right at like 50 yards, and I was like, oh man, I thought for sure that was a buck.
You got the blood pumping.
Oh my God, I was shaking like a leaf. So go all the rest of the day, see nothing, and I was like, God, well, at least I'm in the right spot because there's does in here, and that doe is bound to be hot. I kicked 2 does up the day prior just off the scrape line. I was sitting, I'm like, there's plenty of does in here to get hot at any second.
Mm-hmm.
So go in the next morning. It's a beautiful, crisp November morning and just quiet, dead quiet. Nothing was going on, and I was just kind of, honestly, just in la-la land. I was just sitting there looking around, and it hits noon. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I had rattled a little bit, and I had dropped my rope that connects my rattling antlers, and so I was like, at noon, I'm going to get down and grab them.
Oh, I thought you were doing the Bomar.
Hitting them off the ground.
Yeah.
So I was like, at noon, I'm going to do it. And then it hits like 9:30, and it's just dead quiet. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go get it right now. I was like, I might as well just climb down. So I climb down. I get it. Nothing's going on. And then it hits noon. And literally the second it hit noon, all of a sudden I just hear chaos coming up from the bottom.
That could have cost you.
I imagine if I got down at noon, I would have been standing there.
Yeah.
So I see this doe. I'm assuming it's the same exact doe that came up the mountain yesterday because she came like probably 75 yards from where she did the day before.
Right.
And she's tearing up the mountain. And I'm like, oh my God, like now it's really going to happen. I know what's going on here.
Yeah.
And behind her, I just hear the he's just kind of walking right behind her. And I catch his body through like a bunch of beach whips. And I was like, that's definitely a buck. And then he kind of starts picking up the pace a little bit after. And I pull up and I get him in the scope. And I just see, I told you, I was like, I thought he was a 10-pointer at first. When I initially looked at him, I'm like, oh, it's a big 10-pointer. And I'm trying to get him in the scope, can't get him. And then he's gone behind this little knob. And I'm like, oh, God, I got to do something. So I'm grunting at him. He just keeps walking. So I throw a snort wheeze out at him. And it's just dead silent. And I'm like, oh, I got him on that one. I was like, that stopped him. So I'm like, well.
Or you couldn't see him.
No, he had just.
You were just listening to him.
He had just. Let me just turn myself down a touch. He had just gone up on top of the ridge, and he's one bench above me. But he just comes to a complete stop, and I'm like, I think he heard something, but he doesn't know what it was. So I was like, I'm going to throw another snort wheeze at him. Snort wheeze at him again. As soon as I do that one, I just hear him turn like this and aim right at me, and he just starts stiff-legging it right at me. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is working out right now. I just sat all of last year seeing no deer. I wasn't in a great spot, come to find out now, but I spent all of last year not seeing a deer. I've seen now 3 deer in 2 days, and one of them is a nice buck.
Yeah.
And all these thoughts are going through my head, and he's walking right at me. And the way it works out is my camera was set up, obviously, like down below where I could see my eye level. So I just pointed the camera like straight back up where he was coming. Well, he starts walking down looks like an old logging road kind of. And he's walking straight down it. But I have a branch in between him and I. And I just keep catching his body and just a glimpse of the rack. And I'm like, that's more than enough for me to see.
Yeah.
And he ends up coming down, and he walks to, I don't know, 50 yards probably. And I let one fly, and you see him take off in the camera. And you guys saw the video. I absolutely lost my mind. I was freaking out. And so I called these guys, and I was like, I just shot one. And in the back of my mind, I still had the whole Ohio experience where I'm like, I shot that buck, I lost it, and I kind of calmed myself down, and I was like, man, I'm almost positive I smoked that deer. So I climbed down. I'm using the camera to reference where he was and where I shot, and I go over there, and there's no blood, not a drop of blood anywhere. And I'm like, this is insane. I know I smoked him. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm just going to start doing loops, because I heard him take a couple bounds, and I swore I heard him crash, like right there. And so I must have walked, I don't know, 5 or 6 loops, just big, giant loops. No blood. Can't find where the leaves were so thick on the ground. I couldn't figure out where he was running, and I was like, oh my God, there's no way this is happening right now. I was like, there's no way I just lost another buck. And I called you. I had called you guys a couple times, but then I had called you again, and you said, make sure you check over every nook and cranny, every log. And I was like, all right, he's got to be right here. So,
well, I didn't find out till Corey, because we worked together, had come in, and last I knew, you shot a buck. And me and Corey were like, oh, awesome, we're still kind of working away. And then he comes back in, he's like, hey, Bailey, can't find that buck. And I was like, no way, that's not good.
So,
and then you called me, and that's when we had that conversation. You were bumming on the phone,
dude.
I was just make sure you look everywhere, like every place that you think he may not be. Don't overlook it. Go over and clear it out.
Yeah. So
confirm for yourself that it's not there.
And so like I said, I have so many thoughts going through my mind at this time, and I'm like, I can't even fathom that I can't find this buck right now. So grab both the cameras. I have the camera that's filming us right now. I had that one pointing at me, and then my other one pointing at the deer, and I played both of them at the same time and was referencing where I shot him at the camera facing him, and then he runs out of frame, and I took this camera and looked where I followed him to and where I stopped following him. And I was like, okay, it's straight that way. And then you could hear in the footage, it's just like, and then nothing. And I'm like, he's got to be right there. So I walk over there, and he was piled up underneath a whole bunch of logs.
Yeah.
He had ran right in the middle of these logs and just died right there.
I wish I could have been there because I really would like to see like how close you had been initially and where he had been the entire
Dude,
time.
I walked right by him.
Like how close you think?
20 yards,
Yeah.
30 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, he was literally just dead in a pile of downfall.
The leaf stuff is so thick in some
So
places.
bad.
It's almost like they could be like imprinted down into the leaves, and you're like looking. The body almost goes flush with the leaves.
Yeah. Well, even when I was walking up on him, like he just blended right in because he was tucked right up against the logs.
Yeah.
And it was just brown, and then all the leaves, and I was like, oh man, that could have taken a while for me to find him.
That moment though, when you confirm hair, like your eye registers that it's hide laying over there.
Oh yeah.
That feels good.
Yeah. So I flip
That
out my.
feels good.
It's hilarious. I didn't even show you guys this that I have on my phone, but I like flipped it out and I don't have a hat on and my hair's just like going everywhere and I'm like, oh my god, I found him. Oh my god, my hair's a goddamn mess. But it was, oh my god, that feeling was just like total relief.
Yeah.
Oh my, it's so many hours in a stand. Like that was one of my things. I want to kill one tracking and I want to kill one out of a stand in the Adirondacks. And I finally killed one out of the stand and it was just, I mean, I can't even explain the feeling. But he ended up being just a nice little basket 8-pointer, really.
It was a nice buck.
He's a real nice buck.
Yeah, he was a nice buck.
It's like we talked about. If he's the type of buck you jump him on a track and you just get a quick look at him as he's getting out of his bed or whatever, he looks really nice from the side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when he was coming down, that's all I kept seeing was his left side.
He's tall.
And I was like,
Tall
that's a
enough
beautiful buck. Like
Yeah.
that's a beautiful buck. And when I walked up to him, I told Brett, not that I'm not happy with the buck. I would shoot that buck probably again.
Sure.
But I walked up to him and I was like, yeah, he's quite a bit smaller than I thought he was. But it all worked
Well, he's
out.
no slouch.
No. He's a good one, and going to Euro mount him. But then Corey, yeah, you end up coming later that night. But I called Brad, and where I was just so thick with beach whips. It's an easy walk. There was no elevation to go up. But it was just so thick, so I called Brad and was like, well, if you could just come give me a hand. And he's like, yeah, I'll probably be there around 5. Well, by the time Brad got there, I already had him basically right to the parking lot.
Yeah, I had only gone in the woods maybe 200 yards or so, and I saw a headlamp bopping through the woods. I mean, you had made up so much ground that I just very briefly was like, I wonder if this is somebody else coming out because he's made a lot of ground up, but it was you.
Well, where I was, I told myself, I'm like, I want to get off of this bench by darkness because coming through these beach whips when it's dark, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to, like, when you're dragging a buck out, you're trying to look ahead and find the path where you're going to take it. I was like, I just want to get out of these beach whips, and then I'm golden. I get on the logging road and just take them.
Right.
So I literally got to the end of the beach whips right as it got dark. So it all worked out. But yep, beautiful Adirondack buck, and he weighed what, 148?
Yeah, sounds right.
And yeah, just like that, my rifle season in New York is over, and I think next week I'm planning to go to Vermont and catch an accent and maybe go kill a buck.
Yeah, how about that, green plates? We're coming to your state.
About time the shoe's on the other foot.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the deal with me. And right now we're sitting here. It's absolutely pouring rain out, but up north they're getting some snow.
Well, like I said earlier, me and Corey work together, so the bulk of our conversation every morning is just how much of a grind it's been on the bare ground, and Corey's been doing a really good job of sitting this year. At least last weekend was your first full 2 days of sitting, and we've just been like consoling each other about how hard it is, and
In Corey's cloak.
Corey's close.
I
I
have
mean,
no-
hey,
I
it
have no
works.
shame in that thing.
No, dude, it works.
I'm gonna have to get with Adam and maybe scheme up a couple ideas because I think that we can make that thing even better than what it is.
Hey, Adam, if you can come out with a better pattern, I'm all about it. Maybe a little less noisy, too. It's
Yeah.
got a little bit of a fabric
Honestly,
rub
though,
on
like
it.
that could be great for people who sit.
Well, we're referring to what's it called again?
It's an Arctic it's like a heater bodysuit, but it's an Arctic Shield version of
Yeah.
it. So it's not heated itself, but it's super insulated,
Yeah.
and it's big enough to Bailey, so it goes over the top of virtually anything you're wearing.
Sure.
And the best part is it's very packable. It rolls down into the size of about a sleeping bag if you carry a backpack, which I never really did. But even the stagger bag, you could fit it on a stagger bag, just throw it on the back.
track pack, yeah.
The track pack, yep. So if you're walking around and you get to a spot and you're like, I just need to be here, but you don't want to wear 5 different layers of clothing or super bulky clothing.
Yeah.
You just unroll that, you zip it up, you put it on, and you're good to sit for pretty much, I would say, a whole day.
It's literally a sleeping bag.
Well, I kind of pictured him looking like the Michelin Man up in the tree, and then you showed me the picture. I'm like, oh, that's not bad at all.
No.
That's totally
Well,
doable.
while we're out there, Corey's like, my saddle needs to go through this thing, so he's poking holes through it with
I
his
did put a
knife,
couple
and his
little
saddle goes up through
I
it.
customized it. Yeah. Just because one of the days it was getting a little bit cooler than I expected.
Sure.
And if I didn't put the holes in it, my bridge from my saddle forces the front of it to be unzipped, so I'm letting in all that cool air, which is okay, but I want my whole body to be insulated, so I put those holes in there. I was able to zip it up, and I'm just nice and snug.
Well, it's funny you say that because when I saw the picture, it appeared it was very open. I'm like, wow, the thing must be wicked warm because he's barely even like got it on. It's like laying over his shoulders. That was about it.
It's nice, though, because it has those arms, too, that zip up and down. So even when I leave those open, I still stay fairly warm. And, in the case that a deer comes walking through, I just slide my arms out, grab my gun, boom, I'm ready to go.
Yeah,
Yep.
that works
pretty,
out really nice.
Pretty feasible for the
Yep.
type of stuff that we like to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I guess I'll say after I killed my buck, I mean, I'm just hell bent on I want to get some just awesome footage that we could have forever. So I sat with Corey for 2 days. Did we sit? 2 days,
hours.
dark to dark, and oh boy, what a hunt we had! What a
Unbelievable.
it wasn't the first. Was it? It was the
It was
first day.
the first day that you were with me. It was my second day in there.
Yeah.
Sat 25 hours altogether in the stand. 5 hours on Friday afternoon. Went in Friday afternoon. I had a camera in this spot. Hadn't checked it in over a month. Checked it, and I had a couple really nice bucks on camera. 2 in particular. Some other little scrubbers, some does, but just a lot of activity. And this is a big bowl. It's loaded with softwoods. There's a good hardwood edge that runs in between another cut that's in there, an older cut too. It's probably like 15 years old. It's great cover. Just a spot that has a lot of different things going for it. So I got those pictures of those bucks. They were in there relatively recently, and I'm like, you know what? I don't have anything else going on. The woods are unbelievably crunchy. We hadn't gotten any moisture. I got to sit. I got to do it. Brad and I have talked about it a lot. Bailey and I have talked about it a lot. It's not something that I prefer to do, but I forced myself to do it this weekend, and I'm glad I did because, A, it ended up being incredibly fun having Bailey in the stand with me. We had an incredible encounter, which we'll talk about, and it really is effective when there's no snow on the ground if you can find the right spot. I mean, guys like our father just prove it year after year that. He's not even going out and doing a ton of hardcore scouting, but
Picks a good rut funnel.
he just picks something that he likes that catches his eye, and he puts his time in there and he gets his buck. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we went in Friday. I didn't see anything Friday. Bailey said he wanted to go with me and film. We went in Saturday, and it was grueling that first day because we had no action for the first 9.5 hours leading up to the last half hour.
I played a lot of pool on my phone.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of some good apps I could download.
Corey
that might
plays-
keep me.
I play Sudoku. I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd. Like I got to keep my brain engaged here. So Sudoku.
New
and
high
let's-
score.
Let's just Corey's in his saddle, and I just every time I hunt with Corey, I just tell him how much I hate his saddle platform. It makes me uncomfortable just looking at it, and it's this tiny little thing with like these wings, and I was like, I got to get my saddle platform in here that you can stand on. So fast forward one day, I'm just gonna jump ahead. We take my saddle platform. I'm in a stand, a nice comfy stand. We take my saddle platform. Corey stands on that, and then we're like sitting there, and I'm like, just, nothing's going on. I'm looking at the ground, looking at his old saddle platform, looking at the tree. I'm like, why don't you throw that thing on the tree so you can sit on it and then put your feet on mine? So he has his saddle platform against the tree that he's sitting on because the trees are only like...
It's a double hemlock.
Yeah, it's like,
and they're
like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So he has his saddle platform on the tree, mine on the other tree, and he's sitting in it like a tree
just
stand.
splitting the two main branches.
It was very comfortable,
Yeah.
honestly. It was a game changer.
Yeah.
It was last half hour of light or so, Saturday afternoon, and I want to say it was about 4:40, somewhere in that range. We had about 20 minutes of legal light left. And the way that I pictured the deer using the area that we were hunting was exactly how this deer ended up coming out. We heard that distinct crunch.
From a long ways away.
Yeah, it was dead silent. I mean, you could hear a pin drop that afternoon. I'm like, oh, here we go. Heart's pumping through the chest. Bailey's getting everything. I hear him scurrying, get the camera ready, everything. I get the gun up, and mind you, I have this hemlock branch that comes right out, runs perfectly parallel to my setup, and I can just lay it on top. It's the perfect rest. So anything that moves out in front of me, I'm nice and steady. So I get the gun rested up. Here he comes. I see him. I grunt because it looked like he was going to go a little bit higher on this hardwood ridge out in front of me. He definitely hears it. He stops, and he just continues actually where he ended up going, which was lower on this ridge. I'm like, here we go. He steps into that opening. Spike horn or 3-point.
It was a spike horn.
Okay, yeah, spike horn. Like, oh, man, I had him dead to rights right there, too, at like 50 yards. I'm like, oh, my gosh, perfectly broadside. But it was cool nonetheless. Like, it was very exciting. And honestly, if what ended up happening never happened, it would have been a heck of a day. Plenty enough.
Yeah, yeah.
So he kind of works off. I messed with him a little bit, throw some doe bleats at him, just seeing if he'd come in and we get some film of him or whatever. He was on a mission. He took right off and he kept going.
So then it comes to a minute of legal light left.
Well, it was 4:58. I remember looking.
When I dropped my camera on the ground, there was 1 minute of legal left.
Right.
Wow.
So it was like 4:58. You start packing. You drop that down. I remember it was like 5:01 or 5:02 because I had my watch and it lit up and I
was
saw
being loud too. I was like
me
stuffing
too.
stuff on my bag, and that bag I have is so goddamn loud, and I'm just zipping it up and doing all this stuff. And
The
then,
camera bag there.
yeah,
Yeah, I was rolling up my cloak and doing all that.
Corey's cloak.
we were not being super diligent. We were just like, it's time to get out of here. Let's get out.
Makes sense.
And over the top of all the rustling, I just heard crashing coming off the ridge towards where that spike had walked up to. And, oh, my gosh, you hear what we end up finding out was a doe come crashing down, buck behind her. We hear him grunting. Brah, brah, brah. He's letting out a few grunts. I hear him going in circles. There's like a little wet hole out in front of us where a drainage comes down, and he's running around this little wet hole. And then we hear a third deer come down, and there is a very deep grunt.
Right off the right. And all I have is my phone at this time, and I'm like trying to film on my phone. The phone didn't pick up any of the grunts, unfortunately, but
I wish I could hear
you
that.
could just hear all of them run around. And I just look at Corey. I go, that was a deep grunt.
I was trying to tell myself, no, it wasn't. This was not it. It was another doe. I'm like trying to run any other scenario other than that was probably a pretty.
It was
nice
one of
buck.
the. It was definitely the loudest grunt.
Yeah,
it was literally just so distinct. Like this deer's messing around with this doe, and then off to the right, I just hear, brrr, and I'm like, oh.
That is awesome.
It was really, really cool. They screwed around at like 25, 30 yards for
Never got to see their heads though.
Dude, I could just see
just dark enough.
I had realized the next day when we got in there, if I was sitting down versus standing up, I had a little hole, and I think there's just enough light to where I would have been able to see what they were, because they were all at one point they were all standing right in that hole, and then they took off up the bowl. So
Yeah, it was crazy. That was some of the best rut. I mean, especially up north, that was some of the best rutting activity that we were fortunate enough to be there for, even if we didn't get to see exactly what they were.
Yeah.
I heard that buck clicking. That was the first time I've actually personally heard a buck click in the
very
woods.
loud, like
Very loud. It was always like a horse, like somebody was like, doing it to a horse.
Yep.
But
It's hard. It's honestly hard for us to
I
replicate.
can't replicate it.
Yeah, but I know exactly. Look, I told you it's kind of like when bull out glunk. They call it
Yeah,
glunking. They have to be close enough for you to hear them do it.
Yeah.
It's like something they do to themselves.
Oh, these deer were just fully rut crazed deer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
they
doing,
were consumed.
Just doing what rut crazed deer
They
do.
couldn't
It was
care
so
less
cool.
about anything that was going on around them, but they ran up into that really dark timber because that pocket of softwoods that we're right on the edge of it, and it is so dark and just feels like big buck territory in there.
Yeah.
So they ran up the drainage about where I would expect them to go, because when I had tracked in there last year, that was what led me to this spot, was all the sign coming down this bowl, which was very gradual. There's not a ton of terrain that forces them to go anywhere. It's
Just
all
a lot of terrain features coming together.
Yeah, and it's all edge-based. Everything's just edge-based that forces it, and cover-based there.
Yeah.
And everything funneled into this one spot, and everything went up the bowl where they went. So
Yeah,
the next,
sorry, not terrain features coming together, but a whole bunch of different habitats.
yes,
coming
yeah,
together.
a lot of different habitat. So the next morning, I mean, we were jacked up. I was fairly convinced that we were going to get a crack at something the next day. And when we walked in the next morning, I thought the same exact thing, because I don't have a great sense of smell. Bailey doesn't have a great sense of smell. Ever since we got COVID, it's been pretty bad. And we hit the bottom of this bowl. long story. We basically walked the edge of the property, and then when you get to the bottom, there's a logging road. And as soon as we hit that logging road, you could feel the thermals pulling down, and it smelled like a barnyard down there. It was foul.
It was disgusting.
Smelling.
It smelled so bad.
It was so.
I've never
strong.
smelled like where I killed my buck. Every morning I would walk up, I would get just because they were tearing it up there, so I'd just get whiffs. This was like a constant pull of just rutting bucks. So they must have just been in there all night.
It smelled like a farm.
It almost makes me wonder if bucks did fight somewhere in the area. Just given my experience, the time that I smelt where bucks had, and it just reeked like bucks.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if a buck fight had taken place in there.
It very well could.
Because why else? Like deer, bucks that are in rut chase does all the time through areas that we're hunting. You don't smell them.
No.
So
something
was going on.
They partied in there all night. They had to have just hung out, and they very well might have even been there that day.
Mm-hmm.
But after smelling that, we got in the stand. We could smell it at the stand probably for the first 2 hours of light.
Wow.
And then it kind of dissipated, and I just stopped smelling it, and we sat sun up to sundown all day Sunday and didn't see a single deer.
Boy.
So long weekend, 25 hours in the stand. But it was worth it. Saturday made it worth it. Didn't get to pull the trigger, but that was awesome. I would do it again under the right circumstances.
Could have killed the buck. Could have killed the buck.
Yeah, not the one I'm looking for.
Yeah,
but
not the one you're looking for. But
Yeah,
could have killed one in the Adirondacks. So.
I have a peg on Adirondack spike horns. I have a knack for finding Adirondack.
You do. I knew that, but until you just said that, and it kind of refreshed my memory. You're right. You do, man.
Oh, remember the track that?
It's the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah.
I had that boy dead to rights and it coming out of his bed, and I'm like, oh, just put something on him. And,
I mean, to this day, that track still bothers me because I'm worried. I know at some point in my tracking career over the years, I will do that. I will track what is a nice track, and it's going to be a spike or a 4.
Might be tomorrow,
damn,
brother.
Today was the day, huh? Today had to be the day that it happened. I hope not.
We had two sets of eyes on that both were in agreement. Like, this is a good buck. It was
a
good
That's
buck.
as good as any other buck track that, I mean, as nice as the last 2 bucks that I've shot. I mean,
looked great.
Yeah.
Looked
perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean.
And it was with does.
Yeah, he was with those. He was doing big buck things, staying in cover, and I'll never forget him coming out of those softwoods, standing there looking into the sun, and I just see 2 5-inch spikes there on the field goal post. I'm like, this is not my day.
What a bummer, man.
Oh, well. It is what it is. So
yeah, well, things are definitely changing for the better. So that's all we could ask for. Even if it had only rained, it would have been better than nothing.
I was just thinking about that today. Like, I know we're very concerned about the snow, but I'm like, at least it would be quiet if we went. Even if there was no snow and we went somewhere, at least it would be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is, I mean, this is the loudest it's been for a prolonged period that I could ever remember walking through the woods. I mean, it was so goddamn loud this entire month. Mm-hmm. A deer could hear you from a mile away coming.
Yeah, I mean, I've personally had great luck just still hunting over the years, and half the time it wasn't even still hunting. I was just making my way through the woods, and I jumped deer. But for whatever reason this year, it just seems like it's been dry and loud for so long that they don't even give you a chance, man.
Yeah.
As soon as they hear that non-deer cadence, the only thing I can assume is how they put 2 and 2 together that it's a human. They're just out of there.
Oh, yeah. So, Corey and I got messed up by squirrels about 8,000 times while we were sitting.
It's unbelievable how loud a red squirrel that is about the size of my hand
snapping
can be in the
branches.
woods. Snapping branches.
Yeah, well, like 2 weekends ago, I was hunting where we had our tent camp a couple of years ago, and I was making my way out of the woods, and I came up over this knoll on top of this mountain, and I heard what I swore to God was a deer like 10 yards in front of me over this knoll. I mean, it was the cadence was perfect to be a deer, and I'm standing, and it's moving like it's going to come up over this knoll. I'm like, I'm going to shoot a buck on my way out of the woods right now, point blank. Like, this deer, he's going to see me, and I'm going to be shooting the minute I see him. And after about a minute goes by, I finally start making my own way towards the sound. I'm like, I'm going to walk right up on it. I'll just lean over and shoot it over this edge. It ain't going to know what I am.
Yeah.
And come to find out, it was a bird in the leaves, like flapping its wings off the ground. Like, I don't know if it was doing a little bird dance in there or what it was doing, but it sounded just like a deer. It was so loud. Yeah, it was silly. It did a couple dances in front of me there, flapping its wings and it just took off. I can't even make it up. It sounds silly, but it sounded like a friggin' deer.
Oh my god. Well, yes. So that's how loud it's been.
Yeah,
That's how loud it's
or
been.
we're just all losing our minds, which is also extremely plausible.
Oh, another thing.
Corey, did you get a trail cam picture over there?
No, sorry, boys. Fire department stuff. I'm just seeing what's going on.
hot
here.
job, hot
Sorry
job.
about that.
Yeah, the hot job going on over there, brother. Yeah. You can talk about. I mean, you always go out every day, usually Southern Zone with your dad. You can talk about that. What you had happen there.
Yeah, I it's hard for me to not just go up north and hunt, but I always try to go out for the Southern Zone rifle with my father because it's
Just
what
tradition.
It's what I always did as a kid prior to us ever getting involved up north. And I had saw a really good buck back during the bow season out behind the house here. And for whatever reason, going into opening day of Southern Zone Rifle, I just had a feeling I was going to see him, mostly because I haven't been out there at all since bow season. So at least a month of no human disturbance out
My
behind the
pee
house.
had dissipated around the stand.
Yes, you peeing out of my yeah, exactly. Which I never do.
Just quick story. I've always wanted to film Brad out here because every cold front in October, Brad sees a nice buck out here during bow season.
Yeah.
I mean, it never fails out of the stand.
No.
So I told Brad, I'm like, I'm going out there with
It's
you.
like, I got to see what this stand looks
Yeah,
like.
I'm going
It's
out
so
there with you. And so we climb up the stand, and I look at Brad, and I'm like, dude, I really got to pee. Brad's like, looks like you're going to be holding it for a long time. And I'm like, God damn it. So it hits about 10 o'clock, and I'm like, dude, I really got to pee. And he's like, all right, go ahead, do it. And I peed all over. And so we've just been joking about it ever since.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind peeing in scrapes at all. We've peed in scrapes, and it works just fine. Like it don't bother the deer at all. But I'm not really partial to peeing out of my stand because it just seems like you're just putting unnecessary
I've always
scent
wondered,
all
like,
over.
what do they think when they smell piss that's 15 feet up on a tree? Like, you're going to ricochet off
Well-
of the tree, and they're like, where did that come from?
Well, I'll do you one better yet. I told Corey I climbed down out of my stand the other day, and I had to go, not pee.
He tried going like 40 yards from the stand. I'm whistling to him, waving my arms.
Well,
I'm
no.
like, get out of here.
No, that's when I was with you. When I was in my stand where I killed my buck, the day before I killed my buck, I'm like, it's got to happen. I climbed down, I went right up the ridge and just let her rest right there. Hey, it didn't affect me any.
All right, well, fair enough. Anyways, I felt like I was going to see this buck, and I hunted a different area of the property from where I had seen him with the bow. And sure enough, I had 3 does come through, and I could see a 4th deer coming behind him. I knew it was going to be a buck, and it was him. And he was beautiful. Big, beautiful buck. He would have been my nicest buck out here, and I've shot a few good ones out here, and my father as well. And it just so happens that I'm hunting behind a horse farm, and I was hunting pretty close to the farm because that's one of the fingers that runs right behind the farm is good hunting. And if he was down to my right, I'm good to go, but he was up to my left. He was kind of at my, like, 10 o'clock, and that would be kind of shooting back towards the farm. I would have been perfectly safe, but just out of respect, I didn't do that. And so I watched that buck stand out in front of me at like 50 or 60 yards. I had him dead to rights 100 times over, and I just had to let him walk.
And you guys got to understand, for Brad to shoot one here in Southern Zone, it's got to be a whopper.
Yeah,
so.
and that's what I told them. I said, let me put it. They were like, well, how big was he? And I said, let me put it this way. I was going to burn my rifle tag on him.
Yeah.
And I do not want to burn a rifle tag before the snow flies.
That's one you can't pass.
Yeah, so he was a really nice buck. I would have been really happy with him. So, I had that happen, but I just want to get back up north. Like, honestly, I could care less.
Yeah.
I could care less.
What are you gonna do?
Even if I shoot a lesser buck on snow, that's just the way I prefer to hunt. It's
100%.
just more fun to shoot one up north. Me and Corey talked a lot about the satisfaction. It kind of comes down to you in a 2-year quest to shoot a deer out of a stand. The satisfaction of killing a buck in the big woods is just, it's unmatched.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you can just go weeks and weeks on end of hardly seeing, if any, deer at all, and you can finally put your tag on a buck, it's just the satisfaction, and that's what you're hunting for a lot of the times.
Yeah.
If it was just about going out and shooting a buck, that would kind of get old.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, you want to earn it.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like, I was thinking about the other day. I know how I talk about on here a lot, and just you guys, like, that point. I remember when I was in Virginia and we were hunting turkeys, and it just clicked for me. Like, it just clicked, and I was like, oh, I can kill a turkey anywhere. And then I started killing turkeys, and it's like with hunting. Like, this year, I had that click, but I don't feel like it's just like a piece. You know what I mean? It's not like the whole thing, and I feel like there's just so much more to learn. But I feel like I just got a giant piece.
Yeah.
Whereas in turkey hunting, it clicked, and I had the whole thing.
I'm totally following you. But the thing that me and Corey have talked about a lot lately is that I just can't understand why it's so difficult to find these bucks in the big woods. Like, there's a particular piece that we hunt that is very large. It's a very large amount of state land, but through us and some friends that we keep in touch with, we get a lot of trail camera intel and just general hunting intel, like what everybody's seeing and stuff. And there's this one spot, man. There are good bucks all over this mountain.
It's insane.
In broad daylight, and they're just doing. There's just been so many times they're doing stupid things, or it snows and we don't particularly hunt up there, and there's pictures of bucks walking by the cameras in broad daylight in the snow. And we've hunted this place for going on 5 years now, and we have never even any of us. Well, I mean,
Corey saw that one, John.
Briefly, but overall, we have not seen a buck.
I've had one encounter with. It was the biggest buck I've seen in New
Right.
York State, but that's it. That's the only buck.
I saw a spike horn up there.
A spike horn.
Yeah,
The one you pushed me.
That's it. And none of us have shot a buck up there, and that includes the friends that also hunt up there.
Yes.
It just blows my mind that the cameras can be getting all these beautiful bucks on camera, and then you go in there and hunt, and you feel like a pin. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Needle in a haystack.
Needle in a haystack. You feel like a freaking needle in a haystack.
I want to, since you just brought the camera thing up, I just want to go back to that a little bit. They tell so. That's all I kept telling Corey when we were sitting over his camera. I'm like, this camera is telling us so little. I went in and checked it today. He had one doe on it. I went in, and when I went to go check it, 2 deer jumped up right above it.
Yeah.
And it's like they just tell so little. It's like, what are those bucks doing? Like, how often are they daylighting up there?
Well, we convince ourselves that when you put a camera on a certain saddle in the mountain, you think that camera is capturing everything that would move on that side of the mountain. So when it doesn't get pictures, you're like, man, well, there's no deer moving over there. That's just not true. That camera's only covering the 25-yard span that is within its field of view.
I would be
Other
willing
than
to
that-
say, unless it's the pinch of all pinches and a deer has to walk through there, I'm willing to bet that a camera's catching 10% of the movement through an area.
Yeah, but it also comes back to what I've said a lot before too, and during conversations with Corey, and me and Corey always have great conversations that I wish we had podcasts on because we just get rolling, and next thing you know, it's been like 2 hours. Like, damn, wish we recorded that.
Yeah.
The fact that a camera can be in the woods for 24/7, 365, just a reference. I know we don't always leave them out there for a year, but just 24/7 for the length of a deer season, and it might get 3 bucks on it.
It's insane.
And they're all just nighttime pictures.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's crazy to think that anybody can sit and kill a buck. You absolutely can.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, but it just to think about it.
Well, it also goes to show, like, when we were sitting there the other night, those deer that came down grunting and stuff didn't go by Corey's camera. So, like,
Right.
he goes, checks
As
his
a matter of
camera.
fact,
There's
they were
nothing on
like-
camera. And he's like, oh,
Yeah,
well,
no bucks here.
nothing's hit the scrape. No, well, I guess nothing's been here. But really,
Yeah, but I mean that one though, honestly, like, and the more we talked about it, it makes sense that they're not walking in front of that camera. Like that spot in particular, I'm not hunting that because of the camera, even though there are spots like that. There's so much other stuff going on there that it's completely plausible that what you're saying is 100% is what's going on. That's a 10% spot. Like at some point in the season, I'll probably get every deer that moves through there at least one time going by that camera, but on a consistent basis, it's not going to happen. I
Right.
mean, those deer that ran by were 10 yards behind the camera when they went charging through. And like you said, how many times does that happen when we're not there?
lot.
Probably every day.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, like, we don't run a lot of cameras. I have a whopping 3 trail cameras out amongst the hundreds of thousands of acres we have access to, and these 3 cameras all happen to be within a mile of each other in one location. I have no other cameras out.
yeah. I don't really count at home because I have some on my food plot that I like seeing the
that
deer that are
doesn't
going
even
through it. But, like, up
count.
north, I probably only have 4 cameras out.
And they're all on the same property?
Nope. One of them is on where we're going tomorrow.
If it's even on, though. It's probably dead, right?
It's probably dead by now, but
Yeah.
there's probably some wicked videos on it. And then the rest are where I kill my buck. Yeah, but one of them I just threw up like a couple days before I killed my buck.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. I did have that buck I killed on camera, though, on that
Yes, you
the
did.
scrape what a productive scrape
Yeah.
that we found there a couple years ago.
Yeah,
where
in the
I
summertime.
where I originally got the buck I was calling Splitty, the one that got killed by that guy. Which congratulations to him too. That is just an unbelievable buck. But that scrape is they just pound that thing.
Yeah.
Every buck in the area, my dad's buck, the buck I shot. We have another really nice one. They've all hit that scrape. So that was a great find.
The scrape activity's been excellent this year.
It's been
Yes.
phenomenal.
Very,
very good.
Last
Lots and
year,
lots of
I feel
scraping.
like it was definitely either last year or the year before. We did a lot of whining and complaining to each other about
Lack
the lack
of sign.
lack of this year. Not a problem. We've seen a lot of buck sign this year.
Where I killed my buck, I mean, we hardly ever find sign up there, really. Like, there's usually very limited sign. And dude, when I came into this area, I was like, whoa, I've never seen sign like this here. I'm like, this is where I got to be.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where they were. So
Yeah, I don't know if potentially the dry conditions we've had, like the scrapes have been better preserved, or whatever the case may be. But boy, there's a lot of scrapes this year.
I think that we lost leaves a lot earlier this year, so a lot of the scrapes didn't get covered up.
There you go. Yeah,
I mean,
that makes sense.
The scrape that you set is still wide open. All the leaves are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we talked about it in the last podcast. I have video from November. God, it was had to be like the 15th or the 20th, somewhere in that time frame, and there was still a bunch of leaves on the beech trees. The woods are bare right now. There's no leaves left.
Yeah, and man, striped maple. I feel like every time I come into a cluster of striped maples, there's a
They're
rub
rubbed
on it.
up.
I don't know what. I would love to know what a biologist from the Northeast says about striped maple, because there is something to it, man. Bucks love rubbing those things. Between the striped maple, the beech, and spruce, I mean, that's pretty much what they rub when I see a rub.
Yeah. Yep. So
Off we go tomorrow.
yeah. We're sitting
Yes.
on looking like saying like what 8 to 12.
Yeah, I mean anywhere from 1 to 12. That's what we're looking at. 'Cause
Yeah.
it does change.
It has
quickly.
been fluctuating.
It's been
a lot.
fluctuating. This storm that's coming through, it's like there's a lot of warm air mixed in with it, so we're teetering right on the edge of rain and snow in a lot of places. But it looks like where we're gonna fall, it's gonna be mainly snow.
Is
so.
it going to be? Do you think it's going to snow all night and then potentially turn to rain tomorrow? No, you think it's going to snow through the morning?
From what I last checked, and I haven't checked it in about an hour and a half, and I love checking the weather for those that are curious, but it looked like we're going to get snow up until noon tomorrow. We're actually
Wow.
going to,
Wow.
yeah. This
Yeah,
is a pretty big storm that's moving
Might be
through.
tough to catch a track then.
Well, I told Corey this morning. I said, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm getting anxiety about tomorrow, and I got that last year, the day before I killed my
Dude,
buck.
I'm full anxiety. I'm following Brad
Well,
tomorrow with the
because it
camera. I'm
feels
full
like
anxiety.
the first good snow, and tomorrow's not just any snow. Like tomorrow's a good killing snow.
It's going to be
It's
windy.
like it's like the Super Bowl, because it's our time to shine, baby. Like, we've been waiting for the snow to come, but my anxiety comes from finding the track. I feel fine once we find the track,
We'll find the
but it's just whether or not we'll find the track when the snow is actively falling, and are these deer going to be, hunkered down for a bit, or I don't know. I don't know what it's going to.
The beautiful thing about tomorrow is no matter what, it's a fresh track.
Oh,
if
yeah.
it's a buck track, he'd take it because he's somewhere
sure.
close. Well,
For sure.
maybe. If
Yeah.
hopefully he gets ideal situation. He gets mixed in with a doe, and he goes and beds down
We
somewhere.
are coming into that time frame where the big ones are long lining.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
for sure.
The big ones are,
Yeah.
they're
For sure.
like, oh boy, the time's running out. I got to
Yeah,
go
well,
find
so
one.
were they last
Yeah.
year when you killed your buck.
Yeah. I mean, that buck was definitely cruising when I caught him.
Yeah.
Just right place, right time.
Mhm.
But yeah. There. And hopefully that doesn't happen either. I'd
Yeah.
really like to catch one that's just kind of hanging in an area.
Oh, we're gonna be sneaking up on one tomorrow, and you're gonna say, "I'm sure you're in his bed." I'm gonna zoom in right on him.
Hey man, I hope so. I'm not gonna put all my eggs in one basket, but I certainly hope so. It's gonna be fun either way. I mean, we're having fun now. The giddiness you feel when the snow is gonna fly. I mean, this is better than Christmas.
It is.
Yes.
It's really funny. Just a couple.
And it's coming in on Friday.
On our
we
day.
have a 3-day
Yes.
weekend, man. You can't beat it. It would
Yes.
suck if this was coming in on a Sunday.
We've lucked out with the timing of all that.
Last
this
year too.
Yeah.
Came in on a Thursday.
Yeah.
It's funny, just people who have listened to our podcasts and watch our videos and stuff. I've just talked to a couple people on the phone or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, what are you doing? You going?" I was like, "Oh no, I'm following Brad." They said, "Oh boy, they're in trouble." Like, I talked to a couple. I've talked to a couple people, and they're like,
No.
"Brad seems to do pretty well when that snow starts flying." I
Yeah,
said,
we'll
he
see.
does.
We'll see. I don't want to go pound in my chest. I'm not that.
Wait, you
good.
just said earlier before we started the podcast, you said you were Brad Denito.
No. I absolutely did not say that. But would love to be that someday.
Brad Blood.
You did tell me that you think I'm going to look like Hal as the older I get.
I think you look like a young
tall
Hal.
and lanky.
If you look
Tall
at,
and lanky.
if
If
you
I
look-
just had the goatee.
If you look at their old videos, you look just like a young Hal.
All right, hey, I'll take it. Yeah, we're going to have fun tomorrow. Corey's not going to hunt too far from us. I also am already preparing myself that we're going to be just getting going. Snow's going to be perfect, and we're just going to hear... Well, I guess our hunt's over. We're going to help Corey drag. Oh, dude, if you shoot one, we're coming to help drag. There's plenty more
yeah.
snow coming.
It's all good.
No
man.
big deal.
We'll figure it out.
They're still. We still.
Then if
got,
we hear... We're like, oh, boy, that's not good. That's not good.
Please tell me you brought another box of ammo.
There's going to be a big swamp between us, so you're on your own if you start running out of shells.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
That thing's going to have to start swimming to make it to us.
Me too.
no, it should be a good time. Should be a good time.
All right, well, maybe this podcast will age well, too. Maybe next time we get on, we should have another one.
I got a good feeling. A buck's gonna be on the ground by the end of this weekend.
I hope
between
so.
one of you two.
I hope so. One more thing for our meteorologist. So we think the snow is going to last, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Looks
going to warm up a
doesn't it?
little bit on Saturday.
It's
but
okay
not
if it stays warm.
It's not going to be egregiously
If we get
warm.
8, let's say we get 8 tomorrow, even if it knocks it down 3 inches over the course of the day and
Well,
night with a little warm weather, okay, well, we're still hanging with 4 or 5. That's even better, maybe.
Obviously, we're not going to talk location, but we will do a live look right here just to see where we're at.
Pownal, Vermont.
Pownal,
Vermont. Growing up to Pownal.
Bennington.
Pownal.
Sorry, Isaac. 5 to 8 inches overnight tonight.
Yeah.
Tomorrow during the day, snow during the morning with a mixture of rain and snow in the afternoon. Winds at 10 to 15 miles an hour.
Oh boy.
I'm going to be giving the old, sounds like I'll be giving the old peep, the old.
Give it the hawk tool. And then Saturday, Sunday, 38 and 36. So we're not going to lose a lot of snow there. It's going to be cold overnight, too. So, and I looked. I mean, this is a ways out. Not to get ahead of ourselves. Next week, we're going to get some more, too.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, listen, Lord, I've been a good man this year.
yeah.
I've committed no sins.
I've been working so hard.
You take good care of me now, Lord.
Yeah, what is it? It's November 21st, right?
It's November 21st.
November 21st. We still got 2 solid weeks left.
If we shoot one tomorrow, we're going to be in good shape because we could shoot one. The pressure's off for a bit. Got Thanksgiving. We can finally
the holiday.
We can finally give our poor wives a little bit of attention again and make them feel like that we do in fact love them and still live with them, even though it probably doesn't feel like it.
Oh.
So it would actually be pretty good timing.
Tractor parade Saturday.
Oh yeah, big lighted tractor parade with the boy.
Pressure would be off Saturday.
Yeah.
That would be
Oh,
nice.
I might be half pie-eyed all weekend if that happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not even like that, but I might be if we shoot a few.
Brad's going to have his lawnmower in the tractor parade.
I might.
Here comes Brad on his John Deere.
Y'all accept 0 turns?
I tell you what, having this week off, I mean, I've been going at it since September 27th, since bow open. And this is the first week I've had where it was just like I shot my buck. I was thinking about going to Vermont, but I didn't know what Corey was doing. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take the week off, dude. I've slept in every day, taken a nap, and I just feel so recharged and refreshed.
Remember when you were in elementary school and they tell you not to push the moon button on the keyboard? You guys ever remember that?
No.
That was like the number one thing they told us was like, don't push the moon button because it basically shuts the computers off and just completely takes them out. If we shoot one and I finally get to sleep, I'm pressing the moon button, dude. I won't ever come back. I might sleep the rest of the weekend. I can't remember the time I slept past 5 o'clock in the last 3 or 4 months.
Oh, me
Dude, I've been
neither.
going to
Me
bed at
neither.
like 9 o'clock and not waking up till like 9 a.m. And I'm like,
Just
"Wha-"
body
Just
rejuvenation.
feel like I was in a coma.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, at work today, Jimmy got me a second coffee, and I only made it about halfway through, and I started feeling kind of guilty. I'm like, nope, I gotta just keep pounding water. I gotta be ready to go for tomorrow.
Yeah, I
and
pulled
I'm
it-
gonna have another
I
meal
got my
before we
salt
go to
water
bed.
right there. Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
meanwhile-
you're drinking salt water? Nice.
Yeah,
I
I'll get the
pulled,
electrolytes.
I pulled in tonight. Brad was cutting up the deer with my dad, and I come in with 2 beers, and Brad's like, "Are you kidding me right now? We're gonna be hiking around in the morning."
I said, really? We're gonna be hiking, tracking tomorrow, and you're drinking stuff that's gonna dehydrate you? I will freaking leave you in the dust tomorrow if you can't keep up. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah. Brad, the mighty one-stepper, is gonna leave me in the dust tomorrow. I'm gonna be itching to my skin.
Yeah, well, that's true too. Yeah, I'll be about 100 yards ahead of you, and then I'll think I'll start slowing down. That was one step, and you can catch right back up to me. Yeah, you're gonna get your fill of that tomorrow.
Corey's gonna be running around with the tipper can tomorrow.
No. No. No.
Oh God.
All right.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yep.
Wrap her up here.
Yep. Because in about another half hour, I'm hitting the hay.
Yes, I am staying. I'm staying the night here tonight.
You are. It's a sleepover tonight.
Yep.
You're sleeping in the basement, right where you belong.
Yeah. Hey. But all right, guys. Thanks for listening. As always, go give us a follow and like on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all under Adirondack Bucks and Beyond. And we'll catch you next time. Hopefully with some bucks on the ground.
That's
and
right.
Good luck to everyone else out there who's hitting the snow and going hard the remainder of the season.